Hi, everyone. Welcome to another video. My name is Chris Capatera. I'm here with Dr. Sharif Ibrahim, and this is part two where we're talking about cholesterol and heart attacks. So while we put the first one out about a week ago, we had a few people send in comments and ask some questions. So as we give you more information, we also want to answer a few of those questions. One of the questions that came up, Sharif, that was quite interesting is how bad is a heart attack? Is having a heart attack really all that bad? In my world, it's always been the case that you never want to have a heart attack, but I don't know that we could weigh it on whether it's bad or not. It's just not a good thing to have. So let's explain to the listeners why that's such a key thing.
Thank you, Chris. I think this is really very important. And we know heart attack is most feared because of the complications. And one of the most important complications of heart attack is arrhythmia. That means change in the heart rhythm. And there are two very important arrhythmias. One of them is called ventricular fibrillation, and the other one is called ventricular tachycardia. And these two rhythms can result in cardiac arrest. And what is bad about cardiac arrest? Cardiac arrest is a very common complication of heart attack, and the recovery rate is pretty low. If 10% of cardiac arrest outside hospitals recover, and 20% of those who have had cardiac arrest in hospitals recover, which are pretty low figures. But the more sinister is that some patients actually will have loss of the fiber that connect the atria and the ventricle, and that causes complete heart block. And most of these patients would require a permanent pacemaker, having a pacemaker for the rest of your life. Most of patients will do well by having the pacemaker, and it will protect and help them. But many people, they don't really want to have that.
So 90% of people who have a heart attack outside of the hospital, have cardiac arrest, I should say, they actually do not survive. That's the crazy number here. That's incredible. I know a lot of people interchange the two names. They will say, oh, I had a heart attack, or I have cardiac arrest. But there is a difference between the two of those. One is a product of the other, is it not?
Yes, a cardiac arrest is a common complication of heart attack. There are some other complications as well. And one of the most important complications is heart failure. And the bad thing about heart failure is also the prognosis. If we take the 5-year survival rate of patients who have had heart failure, we see that only 50% of people stay alive in 5 years following the diagnosis of heart failure, compared to 85% of the general population. If you're going to take the 10-year survival rate, it is 30% compared to 75% of the general population. And let me just explain it a little bit more. If we take the life expectancy following heart failure, the life expectancy in the UK is around 87. And if you can imagine, actually people lose 10% of their life expectancy following a diagnosis of heart failure. That means they lose something like 8.5 years of their life, which is quite significant, isn't it?
Those numbers are not good to have. So this is the heart attack side of it, but we are talking about cholesterol and heart attack together. Let's go back into cholesterol and talk about more details regarding heart attack, which can lead to those issues through the issue of cholesterol.
Cholesterol came out as a big problem or a big risk factor for heart disease following the heart attack of President Eisenhower in 1955. At that time, actually, the scientists and the doctors were asked to find the cause of heart attack, and they found the LDL, which is the bad guy, cholesterol in the plaques, the cholesterol plaques on the coronary artery. And they have taken this as evidence that it is a very big risk factor contributing to the heart attack. And according to that, the recommendation came out to cut down in fat intake by less than 30% of the daily total calories, and the saturated fat to less than 10% of total daily calories. and the cholesterol to less than 300 milligrams per day. As we said, this is equivalent to 3 eggs per week. Cholesterol is not the only risk factor of heart disease. And as we have mentioned in other videos, there are 3 components of heart disease. And the most important is the inflammation of the arterial linings. And this causes cracks or breaks in the arterial linings. And through these cracks, the damage or oxidized LDL can sneak to set up to start the cholesterol plaque. And during a very long period of time, that may goes for years or even decades, you have a build-up of cholesterol plaques along the coronary artery, and this causes slowdown of the blood flow through that artery. This is the chronic component of heart disease, but the acute component is when we have a clot formed in already narrowed coronary artery to cause a heart attack.
So you've told us a lot of information, but now we have to get informed. In other words, there are tests that are out there. And in the previous video, we did talk about the standard panel, but we didn't get too deep into the advanced panel. So let's talk about that so that when they get to their healthcare professional, they're able to ask the right questions.
In simple terms, the differences between the standard and the advanced lipid or cholesterol panel is that actually the advanced panel looks into the way the cholesterol is transported through the blood. Because as we know, cholesterol is fat or fat substance, which cannot really travel in the blood, which is basically water. So it has to be carried in vehicles. And these vehicles are called lipoproteins. If you can imagine, the standard cholesterol panel measure the cholesterol. And if you think about this cholesterol as passenger and think about the vehicles that transport it, which we call protein particles, if we think about these particles as cars, so it's very important to measure the cars that carry these passengers, because if you have got too many cars on the road, this is make the likelihood of accident is high and also increases the risk of heart disease. So this is the way of thinking about it. This is why the LDL particles is more important than the LDL cholesterol. And the particles can be divided into 2 types. One type is a small, we call them golf balls, and these golf balls stick together and can cause clots. While the bigger particles, we call them beach balls, which are healthy. And as we said, the advanced test will tell you about the particle number, and the healthy particle number should be less than 1,000. So if the particle number is more than 1,000, this increases the risk of heart attack.
Sharif, any final thoughts, anything else you'd like to share before we finish up?
Yes, I think the very important thing here, we said in this video that cholesterol is not the only single factor. And I think the other risk like inflammation and the inflammatory markers is very important to look at. Things like a high sensitivity CRP, which is an inflammation marker, like homocysteine is a very important inflammation marker. And things like the blood sugar control, because insulin resistance increases the risk of heart disease. That is going to be tested by high hemoglobin A1C, which is available in every lab. This is really a very common test, and you can do it, and it doesn't cost that much money. These are the things which you could really look at and address to reduce the risk of heart disease. The other issue, which is really also very important to consider here, is if we find a person who have multiple risk factors, we should do all we can do to reduce their risk factor, even to prescribe statin medications to lower their LDL or total cholesterol. On the other hand, we can also implement simple things that is going to be really very helpful. As we said, we go back to Mother Nature in terms of diet, eating the food, which is real food that contains a lot of fiber, contains a lot of nutrients, having a very good restful sleep at night, good physical activity, reducing the stress levels, and having loving, good relationships, fresh air and sunshine, that also help actually to reduce the risk of heart disease.
So to wrap it up, cholesterol can have an effect, but there are many factors involved with it. And with a heart attack, there are different situations that will come up, whether it's cardiac arrest, whether it's heart failure. And the bottom line here is take care of yourself, take care of your body. All the things that Sharif just mentioned are so important. I'm one of those people who has to do his very best all the time to not have to take the pill in order to help me along. And so far, so good. Through diet, exercise, and routine, I'm able to maintain a healthy lifestyle right now without the pill. It will vary, like Sharif said. Some people will need that. So don't shy away from digging deep and finding out what's going to be best for you. As always, Sharif, a pleasure working with you on this particular video. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you again on the next one. Take care. Sharif and I appreciate you liking this video, and more importantly, remember to subscribe to this channel. There's a lot of content that we're going to be creating, and we don't want you to miss a single second of it.